So let's get started. Thank you for joining the webinar, which today is Talk Teams. Just to let you know what we're going to be covering today, we'll start off by navigating the Teams page, and then we'll have a look at working in Teams. So we'll start with looking at conversations or posts within a team, and also working with private chats. There's activity, so if you do miss anything, a little bit like with your emails, there's an activity section where you can see what's been happening. We'll look at the calendar and creating team meetings, calls, audio and video calls, sharing your files and sharing your screen as well. So just a quick overview really of working with Teams. Now Teams is part of Office 365. I'm using my Barnsley College login details today, and I'm logged in with a training account called ITS, which is in the top right hand corner. So in order to get to Teams, you will need to go to office.com. And in office.com, you will have the option then to put in your Office 365 username, your Microsoft username and password, and then you'll be straight onto your Office 365 dashboard, and you would just click on Teams. I've already done that. I've opened Teams just to save a little bit of time. So this is Teams, and this is what it looks like. At any point during when you're working with Teams, in the top left-hand corner, or any of the Office 365 programs, to be honest, there's a little button in the top right-hand corner. So if you wanted to switch apps, you can just click and switch any apps, or you go back to the dashboard by clicking Office 365. So that's just a kind of a standard setting really with Office 365. So before we start having a look around the screens, what Teams is, as the name suggests, the Teams app allows you to work together with your colleagues and maybe guest users from outside your organisation, so that you can collaborate and communicate using private chats or team chats, using audio video calls, via meetings, as I mentioned, sharing files, sharing your screen. And because Office 365 and Teams is a cloud-based product, as long as you've got Wi-Fi and a device like a laptop or a tablet or a PC and a web browser, that's all you need really. You can use Teams anytime, any place, anywhere. So we'll start by navigating around Teams and just have a look at the interface. When you log on for the first time, you might get prompted to download the app. So I've gone with the web version, but you can download the app, and I'll show you where that is shortly. So the elements that we've got on the screen, to move around Teams, you've got this bar down the left. So we have the sidebar, and that's all the activity you need within the app really. When you select one of the activities down the left, so I'm just going to select chat, you generally get a sub panel. Not always, you don't get that in the calendar, but you generally get a sub panel to choose from. So from chat, I can then decide, do I want to have a look at recent chats, or do I want to have a look at my contacts? And depending on what you select then from that panel, the content is displayed over at the right-hand side. So easy enough to move around. Again, depending on your screen size, this left panel, you may not have room to see all the features within Teams. Sorry, just somebody saying they can't see the screen. Can everybody see my Teams? Can you just let me know in the questions panel, because somebody's saying that they can't actually see my screen. Oh, you can? Okay. Oh, that's okay then. Good, phew. So depending on the size of your screen, you may not see all the activity down the left-hand side. So I can see here that I've got files is missing and calls is missing. So just use the add more apps. So I'm going to put calls in there, and something else will disappear, but it's nice and easy. So probably the calendar will disappear, but I can easily get that back using the dots and switch between the apps from here. So talking about, I'm using Microsoft Teams, logged on to Microsoft Teams via web browser, but in the left-hand panel, right down at the very bottom, there is an option to download the desktop app. It only takes a minute or two to do this, and it's not resource hungry. And the benefits of doing that is that The next time you log on to your PC, the Teams app will just open up automatically. So you don't even have to open a web browser and go into office.com and then open up Teams. It just opens up straight away. That might be a benefit for you. I think it is, because to be honest, while working remotely, I couldn't have done it, I don't think, without using Teams. You can also download the app on tablets, on your phone, on PC. So you can have the app on as many devices as you like, really, or as you need. So when you're working in Teams, you will notice that people are displayed with a colour, like a little circle with a colour on it. And that tells you the status of the person. So I'm just going to, up in the top right-hand corner, so my initial today, because I'm logged on as ITS, is just I. And I can see here from my availability that I am available at the moment. So anybody who's using Teams would be able to see that the user called ITS is available. So feel free to give them a call, invite them to a meeting. When you're in a call, that will automatically change to busy. And if you're presenting in a meeting, like sharing your screen, for example, it will change to do not disturb, so that you'll only get important notifications coming through and people don't pester you, in theory. The yellow means you'll be right back. Maybe you haven't touched your keyboard or your mouse for some time, so it changes to we'll be right back. So you're actually not present at your PC. You can choose your availability at any time as well. So if you're on a phone call, you might want to change this manually to do not disturb or busy. So the idea of Teams, really, I'm just going to select Teams activity down the left-hand side of the screen. The idea of Teams is that you have groups of people within a team that work together, and one person might belong to many, many teams. What's really nice about Teams is you only see the teams that you're a member of. So if you don't have access to it, you don't get to see it, which is great because it keeps this all nice and tidy and not cluttered with loads of things that you can't get into. Some of the teams will have various different items below them. When you click on a team itself, all that does is expand and collapse. There's a little arrow at the left there, so you can expand and collapse. And sitting below each of the teams, you have what are called channels. When you create a new team, you get a channel automatically called General. If you think about channels almost like folders that you'd use on your desktop or on your computer network that you'd organise your files in, similar thing, you organise your activities within different channels. So if your team work on different projects, you might have a channel for each of those projects. So you might need also to create additional teams. In order to create a team, you are going to need permission. So although I'm going to demonstrate now how to create a team, you may not be able to do that within your implementation of Teams. And if you need to do it, you might just need to check with your Teams administrator. So to create a new team, first select Teams at the left, and then down at the bottom, you can join or create a team. So we have an option here to create a new team. Now because I'm using Barnsley College implementation, there's quite a lot of sort of education features in here, like assignments down the left, which you might not have, and certainly not all of these options here. So I'm just going to go for other. We give the team a name, so we call it maybe COVID updates. Give the team a description so that everybody who's using it knows the purpose of the team. Apologies for my spelling. And then the privacy options. Some organisations, all teams are created as private, so only the owners and the members of the team can see it. Alternatively, you can create it as a public team, so anybody who's in your organisation can join it. If you've got a private team, it will be displayed with a padlock, whereas public teams are not. So I'm going to go for a private team so that only owners and members can add. Next. It'll then pop up and give me an option to add the members of the team. It'll just take a second or two while it creates it. So you start typing in who you want in your group. So I'm going to add Pete. I'm going to add him in as a member of this team and then simply close. So we have a new team here, which is private, and automatically we get this general channel underneath to start working with. Now, once you've created a team, you might need to manage the members of it going forward. So I only added Pete, so that's a very small team, just me and Pete. You can add people to your team at any time and take them away, again, and providing that you've got permission to do this. Kind of a standard setting within Teams. Anytime you see 3 dots, the little ellipsis, like continue, ... there are more options to choose from. So for this particular team, I'm going to manage the team. Now this is quite handy as well, because if you needed to change something in the team and you don't have permission to do so, you can find out who the owner is so that you can contact that person and maybe ask them to make the changes for you. It's also really nice to see who the members and the guests are within the team, just so that you know if you're having a chat within the team, you're chatting with all of these people that are in this list. So if I wanted to add a new member to the team, I've gone into Manage Teams, so that's where we are at the moment. Add a member, type their details in, like I did with Pete earlier, and then just press Add and put them into the list. Even if you're not an owner and you don't have permission to add members, you'll still have the Add Member button, and what will happen is if you add a member, it will send a notification to the owner. That person would appear on the pending requests list, and the owner would then have the option of accepting and allowing them into the team, or declining their access to the team. Similarly, you may want to create additional channels. So I'm going to work on a project within COVID. So I'm going to go for more options, and I'm going to add a channel, like a folder, but they're called channels in Teams. So I'm going to add a channel below, and we might call this policies. Again, for the privacy, is this standard? Is it accessible to everyone? Or is it private? So only the people within the team can access it. So I'm going to create it private, and next. And this is just creating the channel for me. So do I want to add members in here? Not particularly at the moment. So I'm going to skip that feature. And you can see there we have a private channel. The general one is not private, that's open to everyone, but the policies one is private. So if you're wanting different content to organise the activities within your team, think about creating different channels. Again, you'll need permissions to do that. Within each of the channels, so the channels are where you actually work. So I've clicked on the policies channel, and just to confirm, that's exactly where I'm working. The tabs across the top will allow me to put posts, so like little conversations, or files, so I can share files with everybody within this team channel. And you can also add additional tabs. Give it a second. It's just populating the list now with all the apps. That's a little bit slower than it normally is. There we go. So I'm going to add a tab for Wiki. Give it a name, so Wiki's absolutely fine. Wiki pages are like quick web pages. like for news items and notifications. They're quite nice for that. Okay. If you've added tabs across the top, you can take them away as well, and then put them back in to your heart's content, providing you've got permission to do so. So all of these teams and channels, using the dots at the side, the options you have in here will change depending on your permissions within Teams. So you can leave the channel if you don't think it's useful for you. If you've got permission, you can delete it, make changes to it, the title or description. Certainly have a look at the members within the team. And what's really quite handy is the notification section. So I'm just going to have a look at channel notifications. So notifications are a little bit like emails. When you receive an email message, you may get a notification on your screen so that you don't miss anything. And it's the same within Teams. So for this particular channel, what notifications do I want to know about? So is it all posts? Well, those notifications are off at the moment. So I'm going to ask for a banner and a feed. So banner is like a little message that pops up on the screen, and I'll show you in a second where the feeds go. Yes, I'll include all replies. So if I put a message in, or somebody else has put a message in and their responses, I want to know about those as well. And channel mentions, like using the social media where you mention somebody. Do you want to be notified about those? Yes, I'll have banner and feed on for those too. And click save. So I won't miss anything now. If anybody populates anything in the policies channel, I'll get notified about it. You may find over time that you're getting too many notifications, because as with a lot of things, you set up all the notifications and then you're bombarded with them. So you can simply go back into channel notifications and switch those features off if you want to. So it mentioned about banners, so those are your messages on the screen, but it also mentioned about feed. The idea of activity is that you don't miss anything and you can go back and focus on the content that's directly relevant to you. So if you've missed any conversations or you've got any voicemail messages, and you may want to filter this over time because it might get quite full. You should also get a little red icon on activity if there is something that you've missed. Maybe there was a chat that app mentions you, so or a Teams conversation. So you do get little icons showing you if it's an app mention or just something that you've missed. So this particular feed I've got here is showing me these items that I've missed. I've missed a couple of calls in here. Over time, like I said, you might want to filter this activity. So if I just wanted to see missed calls or just any mentions, nope, not very popular. Nobody's been at mentioning me in Teams. That's absolutely fine. Or you can switch to having a look at my activity within Teams. So just keep your eye on your activity for anything that you've missed. Okay, so we're going to move on now. So we've got some settings in there. We've got a team to work within. We've got a couple of channels within the team. So I'm going to go to my team. And within my COVID team, I'm going to go to my policies channel. And straight away at the top, it takes me to posts. And from here, I can now communicate. So please bear in mind that you are communicating. Everybody who is a member of this channel will be able to see your conversation. So down at the bottom of the screen, just click to start a new conversation. So I've put some typing in. There are some options in here. So for example, I can apply some formats. So it's like a little bit of a watered down version of Microsoft Word or other Microsoft programs. There are some settings that can be changed and post to multiple channels if you wanted to. Other things that you can include, files, which we'll come back to. You can put emojis in. Very popular within Teams are emojis. Put a smiley face in with the sun. You can also put stickers in here, which are bigger pictures, and also there's a meet now. So if you wanted to, everybody within this channel, if you wanted a meeting so you can have audio, video and screen sharing, you can just meet now. At mentions, as I talked about earlier, using the @ symbol, if you then start typing somebody's name, I'll put Peter in, and press enter or just send the message when you're done. So that message is now, everybody within the team should be aware that that message is there, and the channel will go bold as well, just like your inbox does when you have new messages in there. So hovering over any message gives you the little toolbar at the top so that you can put reactions in, and it tells you how many people have reacted and the different types of reactions. You've got more options, so if you've posted something and you didn't mean to, you can click and you can delete your post. And if you're replying to an existing post, I know it's a bit sad replying to my own message, but just click reply underneath the message, type your message text in, and press enter to send the message through. So that's gone. So those are chats with teams of people, groups of people. So everybody who's a member of that channel can now see that. You might want to have more of a private chat. So that's what chat is about at the side here. Okay, now I can have a look at either recent chats that I've had recently with different people, or I can go into my contacts. So it's probably not a bad idea really to set your contacts up first, and then they're always there for you. So your contacts go into groups. So I've got a group here called Daily Calls, and then you put your contacts underneath. I'm going to create a new group to put my contacts in. Give the group a name and create. So there we go, got my new contact group there. And I'm going to add a contact into this group. So I'll put Peter in again. Try Joseph then. There we go. So we've now got Joseph. So if I wanted to speak to Joseph, just click on Joseph's name. Make sure at the top of the screen you're chatting with the correct person, and then just type your message in as standard and send that message through. Now you'll probably be used to, Andrew, no, sorry, you can't import your contacts from Outlook. You can, if you're in a meeting, you can send it to distribution lists. You can invite people to distribution lists, but no, sorry, can't import from Outlook or from Excel either, which is a bit disappointing. So if you're used to using things like Outlook or selecting multiple items like multiple files, you'll be used to clicking on an item and either using Shift or Control to select multiple items. That just doesn't work with your contacts. So if I try and hold down my Shift key and click on Joanne Dixon, my proper account, it doesn't work, it just drops Joseph. You can add more people into a chat though, so I've got Joseph selected here, and in the top right hand corner of the chat window, I can add people to the chat. Enter the name of the person and add them into the chat. And just give it a second, and at the top of the screen here it shows you who's in the chat. So Peter is not available and Joseph's away from his desktop at the moment, so I'm not likely to get a response. And send that through. You will notice that if you're sending chats to multiple people, that in your recents list, if you sent an individual message, you just get their initials. But if you've sent a chat to multiple people, it kind of splits their initials. So if I wanted to message just Joseph, I can select his name. But if I wanted to message Joseph and Peter again, I just select that previous chat and continue where we left off. Now this in real life, because this is a training account, gets really, really full, because your chats are almost like you shout across the office that you do when you are back in the office and not working remotely, like, where did I save so and so? So you do find that this gets really, really full. If you happen to be working in another area of Teams, for example, I'm just going to go back to Teams here, and I want to start a chat with somebody, you don't have to go to chat and then to recents or to your contacts. It might be quicker just to create a new chat, start typing the person's name in, type the message and press send, enter to send it. And there we go, gone. Okay, audio and video call. So if I wanted to have a conversation with Sue, I can highlight the person from recent or contact in chat and start an audio or a video call. So you can do that directly from here. You can also do that if I just, because my calls feature is just hidden at the moment. So if I display my calls, with calls, you have a few more options. So you have your speed dial. So bearing in mind those contact groups that I had in chat, they're now appearing also in my speed dial list, and speed dials appear right at the top. So you can create new groups from here, and you can add people into the groups from here. You can have a look at just your contacts in more of a list format, a history of the calls that you've been making, and also having a look at your voicemail if you have any messages. So from here, if I wanted to start a conversation, let's go to contacts, hover over the person and press the button, or use the buttons at the right hand side to have a personal chat, send them an email, start a video or an audio call with them. Okay, meetings. So I'm going to just switch into the calendar app. And it's very similar to Microsoft Outlook. So if you're familiar with Outlook, it's not dissimilar to Outlook. You do have an option at the top to create a new meeting or a live event if you wanted to schedule one of those. Or you can simply just put your mouse on the day at the time that you want the meeting to occur, and a single click will bring up a new meeting window for you. In a second. So it doesn't look exactly like Microsoft Outlook, but it's asking you exactly the same question. So what's the title for the for this meeting? Which attendees have to attend? Disappeared altogether, Peter there. So Peter has to attend. Who are your optional attendees? Now, if you've clicked at the right time and the right day, you can just leave these settings or just check, have you got the start date and time correctly? Input, or is it an all-day event? For repeating, so if you have the same meeting every Friday at the same time, you can make it a weekly event or a monthly event, just like you can in Microsoft Outlook. If you want everybody within a channel to be aware of it, so if I just expand this training team down and put it in the general track channel, so there will be a notification about this meeting so that everybody is aware of it. Add a location, well, it's going to be a Teams meeting. And any additional instructions can be added at the bottom. Just like Outlook, you also have a scheduling assistant. So if I have a look at the scheduling assistant, just to make sure, is Peter free during that time? Well, it's unknown at the moment. But just like Outlook, you can move your meeting here if people are not free, put it to a more appropriate date and or time. I'm happy with that though, so I'm going to send that through. and that will go in Peter's Outlook calendar, go in my Outlook calendar. And because I included the general track channel from training, if I go back to Teams and have a look at the general channel in training, everybody, all the members should be able to see that this meeting is ready to go. You don't have to go back to, if you have this notification, you don't have to go back to your calendar to join the meeting. You can simply click it from here. But if I do go back to my calendar, let's just have a look. Okay. Click on the meeting. I can make changes to it, or in the top right hand corner, I can join the meeting. Okay. I'm going to allow calls and meetings for this browser. So let's the reason the audio and the video are switched off is because I'm already using them in the webinar window. So it has it's switched my video off because it's already in use, if you like. And I'm just going to join the meeting. By the way, if you invite guests, so people that are external to your organisation, if you invite those people to meetings, they will basically wait in the lobby until somebody lets them in. Okay, hovering around the screen, so I'm just by pointing to the screen, I can see that here I've got a little toolbar. If there's lots of people in the meeting, I can put my hand up. So if there's lots of people and they're all very vocal, I can put my hand up to let them know that I wish to speak. And the people that are in the meeting, if they've got their video on, you get like small windows with their recordings. And the people that are in the meeting, you will actually see 3 dots, and next to their name, if they've put their hand up, you will see their name there. If somebody has put their hand up, then I'll raise my hand. In the panel that shows you who's attending the meeting, so who's in the meeting, you will also see their hand raised at the side of their name. This people panel, really handy to see who's in the meeting, and if you're the meeting organiser, you can manage the permissions. You can actually download the attendee list, so that's quite handy if you wanted to see who actually attended the meeting. If there's like 20 odd people, rather than writing the name, you can just download it, which will go to your downloads folder. Oh, Peter's in the meeting. No response from Peter. Close the panel or invite somebody else. So I'm just going to close out that panel for now, and I'm going to put my hand down. Hi, Peter. So, Peter, do you want to put your hand up and then everybody can see what it looks like? There we go. Peter's got his hand up. And I get a notification about my participants as well. Within the meeting, you can have a chat, a conversation. And this is really handy if you wanted to confirm a value. So for example, if I was giving somebody a telephone number, I might just put it in here to confirm that they've got it right. And if you want to share files, you can add them to the meeting before it starts, or you can use the attach icon and upload files from your computer, from OneDrive, or if they're already in Teams, or some recently used ones. Let's just pick a file. Beans is a good one, so I'll attach that one. And just send that message through, so we can all look at that file now collectively and talk about it and discuss it and edit it. And that is now uploaded into Teams. So also from this little panel that we've got here, so we've talked about looking at the participants, the conversations, and Peter will get a little icon on his conversation item here to let him know that there's a new conversation to look at. Talked about raising hands. You can turn your audio and video on or off at any time. The 3 dots gives you a few more options. So you can start recording your meetings, which is really handy if it is an actual meeting and there isn't anybody there to take the meeting actions. You can just record it and then share it later. Recordings, by the way, they will appear in the meeting within Teams. They will also be stored in Stream. So from your Office 365 desktop, they will go into Stream, but they will appear in the team as well. Other options that we have in the additional options, more actions list. You've got your device settings. You can put meeting notes in. Now, meeting notes are really handy. You can end the meeting, and if you don't want people to join the meeting with video, you can turn it off. When it comes to sharing your screen, any files that you have open can be shared. So if I go into share, give it a second. Now you can share a whole desktop or window. Be careful about that, because if you've got Outlook open and you're sharing that, people might see your messages that might be private. So if you are going to share your whole window and desktop, make sure you close out of things that you don't necessarily want to share. If there are other files open, they would appear as individual files. So if it was a Word document or Excel spreadsheet. PowerPoint is if you've uploaded any PowerPoint presentations into Teams, so into any one of your team channels, they would appear here as PowerPoint files. And when you select them, basically run through the presentation as a slideshow. If the PowerPoint file doesn't appear here, you can browse for it. Whiteboards are great for everybody to scribble on when you're working in a team meeting. And you can download the app as well, which then that gives you a few more activities. So great for sharing and discussing with your team. So I've finished this meeting now, and I'm going to close out of it. So bye, Peter. Just one last thing. I'm just going to go into Outlook and show you that once you've installed Teams, you can, from Microsoft Outlook, your Outlook calendar, go directly and create yourself a new team meeting. And it is a new team meeting, so from here you can invite people to the team that may be external to your organisation. So you can put external email messages in, invite people who don't belong, and they can join with all the audio, video, and you can share files, and you can share your desktop with them just like you would in a normal Teams meeting. And before you ask, no, you don't need to have Teams in order to join it. So you I don't know, you could be inviting your mum who doesn't have Teams, then that's absolutely fine. Providing they've got a web browser, they can join that meeting, and an email address, obviously. So if I now go back into Teams and have a look in this general channel where the meeting was held, I can see the document that I've added here. And it's also appearing in the Files tab. So the team can work on it later. If you want, I don't know, for speed, for example, if you wanted a meeting with a team, you can simply, within the channel, just use the Meet Now button. So without the necessity of taking your time, going into the calendar, creating a meeting, sending the meeting, joining the meeting, you can just use the Meet Now feature. And then everybody who's in this particular channel, if they all use the Meet Now, you'll all end up in the same location. You get exactly the same call options regardless of which method you use. So finally, we were talking about files and sharing files with the team. So if I go into my Files tab, We have a number of files in here already, and you can create new files. So they're sort of like standard Word, Microsoft Office files. If you're using a PC that doesn't have Microsoft Office installed, these will still work. So you don't even have to have Office installed. You do get a watered down version of the file. You can also upload individual files or folders directly. Drag and drop works as well. You can drag and drop things into here. You can create new folders to organize your work into, just like you can on your Windows desktop. And to edit a file, you can just simply click on it. The best thing I think about using Office 365 apps like this one is that multiple people can edit a document at the same time. So first click displays the document as a view. So I'm going to choose to edit the document, which is opening up in its own tab. And you'll see once it's loaded, you get the ribbon at the top of the screen. It looks almost identical to Microsoft Word, but not exactly like Microsoft Word or Excel, whichever application you're using. You get a watered down version of it when it finally comes up. If you have multiple people editing the document at the same time, like you saw Peter's icon in the meeting there with his photo in it, in the top right hand corner of your screen, you'll get an icon for everybody. So round about here, you'll get an icon for everybody that's working on the document at that time. If anybody makes a change to the document, you almost get a little flag next to where they're making changes, and you'll see their initials to let you know who's doing what within a document. Any changes that are made by anybody editing the document, you get to see them straight away. So instead of like we're used to doing with desktop applications, saying, can you close that file please, because I need to make my changes now, you can all work on it collectively and hopefully quicker get the document completed. Now that worries some people, that other people can edit and you can co-edit, but because Teams uses SharePoint as its back end, if you like, so it's using SharePoint technologies, it has this automatic save feature, and it has automatic version control built in. So if you're looking at your document and you're thinking, well, somebody's gone in and they've absolutely ruined this document, I want to go back to how it was. From the File tab, we can have a look at the information that sits behind this document and have a look at the version history for it. And it shows me which changes have been made. I can switch between and have a look at the previous versions of the document. And if I needed to go back to an older version, I can just basically save a copy. So let's have a look how the document initially started. And I'm going to restore that original version. So go back to that point in time, which takes a second or two. There we go. So back to square one. When you finish with the document, because it's open in its own tab, you can simply close it. But the viewing doesn't. So this is viewing still within Microsoft Teams. So to close the view of the document, you would actually use the close button. As I mentioned, Microsoft Teams uses SharePoint as its back end, if you like, and it uses SharePoint technologies. And in actual fact, every time you create a team within Teams, a new SharePoint site is created. Every time you create a new channel within your team, a new document folder is created within that SharePoint site. So for example, training team with a general channel, in the top right hand corner of the channel, if I go to more options, I would have the option to open up the SharePoint site that sits behind this particular channel, if you like. I'm not going to go into SharePoint. It's not a SharePoint session today. It's all about Teams. It's just to give you that functionality behind it. So I think from what we set out to do today, hopefully that's given you an idea about using Teams, collaborating with files, organising meetings, chatting with your colleagues. Before I end the webinar, I'm just going to have a look at some of the questions that's come in and hopefully answer some of those. Barry, you've said and that phone number. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Can you let's have a look. So somebody else is saying yes, to create a team you have to ask your IT department to do it. A lot of organisations are the same. It's just to keep your team's implementation nice and neat and tidy. So I've got a question here from Nina. If a new member is added, can they see previous correspondence? Yes, they can. So it's not just from the point that you created it, they have access to the team. Have a look. So Mark said, when I go to join meetings, I get a warning message that says, do you want to allow this meeting as it may not be secure? I can honestly say I've never seen that. I'm not sure. You might just want to check with your IT department why that is. Andrew, I think I answered your question about can you import contacts from Outlook. Sadly not at the moment anyway, but because it's Office 365, they're making changes to it all the time. So I suppose watch this space. Can calls only be made using email addresses? If you wanted to invite somebody into Teams or to a meeting that's not part of your organisation, they would need an email address, I'm afraid. Mark, are you on Windows 10? Yes. Andrew, if you record the meeting, is it possible to edit the recording? Well, the meeting actually goes in stream, so and it does save it as a video file. So from here, you do have all the sort of like the video editing tools. I've got a question here from Jill. Can you delete activity if it gets too full? Let me go back to Teams. You can actually delete messages, providing you've got permission to do that. So when you hover over them, you've got the 3 dots. So providing you've got permission, you can actually edit it, but it's quite time consuming because you've got to do it like one at a time, and you need permission to be able to do that. Is a copy of the conversation saved in Outlook? No, it isn't. So when you're in a meeting, so if you've organised a meeting from Outlook and you've joined the meeting in Teams, it's a Teams meeting. It's not a meeting in Outlook, sorry. Got a question from somebody who missed Carol missed the beginning of the webinar. So are web chats private? If you mean private as in if you click chat and you have a one-to-one chat, that one would be private. Nobody else would be able to see it. If you're using the chat within a team, then everybody, all members of the channel will be able to see it. Joanne, is a channel effectively a new folder? Yes, I don't know why they call them channels, but yes, they are folders. And in SharePoint, they're created as document libraries. If you record a meeting, do you need permission to record it? Are you under GDPR? No, but I suppose it'd be good practice to let everybody know that you're going to be recording before you actually start recording. And I've done that before. I'm going to be recording this meeting, guys, and you'd be amazed at how many webcams go boo, 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 boo. They all switch off because they don't want the webcam recording. And everybody in the meeting will be aware that it's recording. There's a message that appears across the top of the screen. So no, you don't need to gain permission. How do you download the chats to Outlook? I don't know that you can, to be honest. I don't think that's an option. You can copy and paste. What is the main difference to Skype? Is it the setup and viewing docs to edit? I'm not a Skype user, to be honest. I know some people are using Skype still for calls, audio and video calls, and then using Teams for chat. But Teams definitely has more functionality than Skype. Can you protect your files so certain people can make amends? If you want to protect your file, you need to put them in a channel that only the people you want to edit them can edit them. So put them somewhere that's already secure. Run through how to email out an invite to external again. Yep, sure. So to invite somebody external, in Outlook, you should have a button at the top to create a new Teams meeting. And then that's it. You just fill their email address in and send it through. What does someone without Teams need to join a meeting? They need an email because they need to be able to receive it, and then a device, really. I've tested this on my phone. I've invited myself to a meeting using my private email address, and on my phone, just open the email, tap join, and that's it. You're in. So somebody's asked if I've missed the beginning, can I watch the recording? Sure, all of these recordings are all on our website. I'll just show you the website, to be honest. So if I go to smartstyle.co.uk, and when you're in, just hover over courses, and right down at the bottom, we've got our daily digital digest webinar recordings. And all the recordings are in here. And a couple more questions. Can you see online status of people? Yes, that would be using the icon at the top. So you've got the status in the top corner. If you invited someone into a chat, can you then remove them? No, you'd have to start another chat excluding that person. Don't get me wrong, you may find that you are included in a chat that you're just not interested in, and then you get notifications pinging right, left and centre. So you can choose to leave, but you can't make other people leave. So from this chat, I'll use the more options, and you'd have an option in here to leave if you don't want to be in there. If the video recording is used, where are the videos stored? So videos are stored in Office 365 in the Stream app, but you can also get them from Teams. So if I go back to that meeting that I was looking at that I had with Peter, and the meeting that we had is here. So I would be able to go back into the meeting and actually click and view the video, and it would appear, it actually appears in here as like a little icon, and you can click on it from there. It takes a couple of minutes to actually create it, but you can go back to the team. You'll see it in the list, in the post list, and just click it. Can you only access through office.com and not through Office 365? I think you can get to it through Office 365, but my advice would be download the app. It's much quicker. Okay, can I go back to the Smart Style training screen? So get a screen grab, of course. So it's Smart Style courses, and it's the daily digital webinar right down at the bottom. I think that's all the questions. So I'm going to end the webinar now. And thank you ever so much for joining, and I might hopefully see you on a future webinar. So thanks again, and stay safe, and look out for the recordings on our website. Thank you, bye.